I'm Jim Benson, and you're listening to TV Time Machine on Intelligent Talk, 1170 KCBQ, and archived on tvtimemachine.com.
Next on C-SPAN, on Friday, President Obama was in Seoul, South Korea for the annual G20 conference, where he met privately with Chinese President Hu Jintao.
Earlier today, President Hu and I were able to meet privately. I left convinced that relations between the United States and China remain strong and will only grow stronger. President Hu.
Thank you, President Obama. In our meeting, we spoke candidly about a wide array of issues. In fact, the only thing we didn't talk about is the matter of your country owing China a great deal of money. About $800 billion, actually. I kept waiting for you to bring it up, and when you didn't, I thought to myself, did they already pay us back and I just forgot?
We're back again with actress, writer, and SNL cast member Nasim Pedrad, right here on the TV Time Machine. When you watched SNL growing up, were there particular sketches or characters that really stood out for you that you really liked?
Oh, I mean, I don't even know where to begin. Absolutely. There's so many, casts that have come and gone that I loved for various reasons. I think when I was home the most was during the Will Ferrell era. Those are the ones that I remember most consistently watching because I was, at home and living with my parents. And, that whole cast with Sherry O'Terry and I guess Molly Shannon and Will Ferrell, those were the shows I was watching during very formative years of my life.
It's amazing, actually, that SNL has lasted 37 years. And, I think it's going to last 50 the way it's going. Why do you think that is? How have they been able to just turn over casts all these decades and still maintain that level of popularity?
It's because of Lorne. I mean, he's just created this formula that really works, and he's so hands-on still. I think the show adapts the way times change, with the way time changes. And for example, the digital shorts is a great example of that. That didn't exist before. The show was successful before it, but it brought this totally new energy and new thing to the show as everything was becoming so much more digital and YouTube was starting. And that's what's really impressive is that the show stays pretty current, and it's just one of the only shows that's been able to stay around that long. It's pretty amazing.
It really is. And Lorne Michaels, I agree with you. He's an extraordinary producer. What makes him different than maybe another TV producer? What separates him?
He's just he's obviously brilliant. And when he speaks, that becomes very apparent because he's very graceful and just so smart about what it means to do that show every week. He's just an incredibly smart man. And he's actually very funny, and he understands comedy in a very... And it's pretty amazing. He's seen so many different comedic voices go through that show, and for someone to be able to find each of those voices, not only find them, but then find a way for those voices to work on his show, it's pretty extraordinary. He'll find people that are young and couldn't imagine what it's like to be on SNL and give them this opportunity to make their style of comedy work for a show that existed so much for so many years. It's kind of a gift. I don't know if anybody else can do it as well.
Well, how did he find you?
Well, I was performing at the Groundlings, and I had also done a one-woman show that I think Tina Fey might have seen a DVD of. Maybe she mentioned me to him, and they came out and saw me perform at the Groundlings. And then I got my first audition after that, and then a couple weeks later, my second audition. And then I met with him, and then I got the job.
What was your first day like on stage performing live? What was that like for you?
It was definitely surreal. I think it was a Thursday show because we were doing those. We'd just done a few Thursday shows before Saturday shows when I started, so it was like a weekend update show. And I just came on real quick and did a Kathy Griffin impression, and I just remember going by so fast and realizing, wow, so that just happened. You kind of just take it one day at a time. Your whole first year, you're just like adjusting to the fact that you're on this show you've been a fan of your whole life.
What surprised you most about being on SNL, and particularly the production?
I really didn't expect everyone to be so sweet and supportive of one another. I feel like the whole cast right now and everyone that works on the show, it's such a great, lovely group of people. I don't know what I expected. You hear like these horror stories
right.
sometimes, but it's really not like that right now at all. I was pleasantly surprised.
Well, that's one of the best things about being a performer on SNL. What is the toughest thing?
I think the schedule is just the schedule is pretty intense. So, if you have like 4 shows in a row, you're just a little sometimes burnt out coming up on that hiatus. And then, you'll have like a week or 2 off and you get to recuperate and then jump back into it. But that's the hardest thing, is just to, I remember Will Forte telling me when I first started, he's like, just remember it's a marathon and not a sprint. And it's really true. We have usually 22 shows a season. And you just have to make sure you don't burn yourself out by the 3rd show.
At 22 is a lot. I mean, that's, there are film series that don't run 22 episodes.
Right. And, with our schedule, even the cast members write sketches. So, on our writing night, some of us tend to, like, pull an all-nighter, and then you go into the table read the next day, and you're delirious, and you just try to catch up on sleep when you can. I would say that's one of the harder things. But, you're doing it. You just feel so lucky while you're doing it. You're doing it for the show you wanted your whole life. I don't think anyone's necessarily complaining. We would all probably do that show for a sandwich.
Now, you mentioned that you played Kathy Griffin on your first show. What other characters did you bring to SNL that you had played before?
Well, none of the impressions. I hadn't done those before just because there aren't, like when, at the Groundlings, you're kind of creating more characters than you are doing impressions. So I had, I guess, started working on those when I knew I'd be auditioning. So I auditioned, I think, with like Kim Kardashian, and then sometimes you end up doing impressions that you didn't expect to be doing, like Barbara Walters, or things that the show kind of gives to you. It's pretty cool, yeah. But yeah, I don't think I did Kathy in my audition either. My audition's such a blur because there were 2 of them, and they just fly by. They're about a few minutes each, like 6 minutes each. and you're just trying to show them as many characters and impressions as you can.
So how is that determined? How is it determined who is going to play whom? In other words, if they're thinking of a sketch about Barbara Walters, do they already know that you do Barbara Walters, or they just assign Barbara Walters to you, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's sometimes it's just kind of assigned based on, certain types of people make more sense to be played by certain actors, and even just based on how you physically look. But that was one that they just kind of asked me, do you think you can try this? And, I was like, sure, I can certainly try. And you just kind of try to work on it. And, yeah, most of the time, usually people, the cast members will say, hey, I want to try this person, or I want to write something, I want to try this new impression, and that's how people kind of know, the writers kind of know.
Now, have you personally met any of the celebrities that you've impersonated?
God, I don't think I have. I'm not necessarily going to seek that out, but
exactly. Are you ever concerned about what their reaction might be if you ever are in the same room with?
No, you know what? I actually did play. It never made it to air, but I was in a sketch with a few other people, and in the sketch I played Ariana Huffington, and I guess even though it didn't air, she might have. I think she knew about it and saw it, and I did meet her. She was totally lovely. She was great. I mean, I think usually public figures tend to be good sports about that. But, yeah, I'm certainly never impersonating anyone from a malicious place, but I guess you never know how that makes people feel.
Well, one thing that SNL has done over the past 30-odd years is, it really has been cutting edge, and sometimes it pushes the line. How do you guys know where that line is, or is there even a line?
There's definitely a line, and I think in those situations it comes down to a dialogue that I'm sure Lorne and the writers have. And then, there are certainly times where we do things and the next day there are people that are like, you guys went too far. And that's part of it, I guess. But definitely there's a line. I mean, there are also, I'm sure, like, morally there's a line. We also have censors that prevents us from just doing whatever we want.
We're going to have to take a little break from our fascinating journey, but never fear. I'll be back in a lightning flash with Nasim Pedrad, who is traveling with us on the TV Time Machine.